Hey, everybody. Welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast hosted by two comedians who love the Cubs but live in New York. I'm one of them. I am Adam Mamawala.
I'm the other. I'm Kevin McCaffrey. What's up, Adam? It's a real peak baseball time right now. This is a great time for this weekly
Non-stop baseball news.
Yeah, I know.
But we do have some exciting news. We are here with former Cub, current Oriole, and frankly, fan favorite Taylor Davis. How you doing, Taylor?
I'm doing awesome, guys. As kind of stated, it's all relative with what's going on outside of this group. But me personally, no, it's all good, man. I have a 9-month-old, so me and my wife are staying busy.
And is that your first?
It is, yeah. So we it's been a long so my wife was pregnant during last season. We had him in August, and then the off season was me being a dad, and then spring training for a month, and then right back to it. So one cool thing for me about this whole process is that I'm going to have more time with my son than I'll ever get with any of my other kids if we have any, so it's been really, really cool for that.
It does seem like
Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh yeah, no, it does seem like if there was ever going to be a time with baseball shut down like this in the way it is, it seems like that is. I mean, that's pretty excellent game planning when it comes to kid habits. Turns out, yeah.
Or no. I don't know if it's game planning as much as it is execution.
Yeah, really, yes.
It's more of an execution issue.
They're all important elements here, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in an otherwise bleak time, I imagine that's got to be kind of one of the cool elements of everything that's happening is that everyone's stuck inside, and that means that ordinarily you'd be somewhere playing baseball, and you get to spend time. We were talking to Alec Mills. I think he's got a young kid.
Yeah, me and Alec. He's probably my best friend from the Cubs that I left, and he's awesome. So, and we actually had our kids a month apart. So.
Oh man,
nice.
Again, execution. That's
right. I know. So I already told him I have a couple buddies that I've played with that all had boys, and I'm like, man, I got a couple throwing partners in the future. Every time, I got to start scouting out who we're gonna throw with.
And you have a son or daughter? You said.
I have a son. Yes. Brooks.
Brooks. Oh man, excellent baseball name.
Yeah, right. So we no reason really, and then it was kind of a coincidence, a funny coincidence that I signed with the Orioles after, and actually a cool story. So Brooks Robertson, obviously,
sure.
And so I actually even had told my agent that I was going to name my son Brooks, and he told me that the main agent in the group had knows Brooks Robinson really well. And I was like, man, this may not be cool for him, but this would be really cool for me. Can he sign something that says hey, from one Brooks to another or something like that? And sure enough, dude, 2 months later at my door was a sign.
That's so cool.
It was awesome. It's so cool.
What was it that he signed for you?
He signed one of his pictures, a big 8x10, and personalized it. And hope to meet you one day, Brooks, something like that. It was really, really. It's like I said, it's probably going to be more special to me than it is to him, but it's
sure. That is once you start getting into baseball, whatever age that is, I still think even if it's players you never saw, it ends up being a cool story to learn about, and it's a good way to get this Brooks into a little bit of old baseball history. It's a fun way. My grandfather had a similar thing. He caught a foul ball from Hank Aaron and then went and got it signed by him, and then I have it now. Awesome. And it's I don't have a lot of Hank Aaron memories, but but it's a cool reason to learn about it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, I got to say, of all the players that we've talked to, I think you are probably the best equipped to do a Zoom interview, because if there has ever been somebody to know how to find a camera lens, I would say that it's probably you. Where the hell did that start? That became a thing? Because I feel that's what a lot of people know you from.
Okay, so in 2016, we had Chris Negron in Iowa. So I made my debut in 17, but in 16, we played the whole year together, and he did that. He just kind of looked in the camera, and I thought it was funny. So the next year, 17, I was back in Iowa, and I did it, right? And I did it 1 or 2 times and didn't really think anything major. But then, we went on the road, we came back, and I did it one game, and I noticed the bullpen was losing their minds. And because, as you guys could see, the video crew, picked it up. And so, like, I was like, all right, come on. Like, it's cool. So then I was like, okay, like, I'll let it play out. But then it didn't play out. And, like, a week later, the GM of the AAA team, who's an unbelievable person, by the way, but he came down. He goes, hey, man, are you going to look at the camera tonight? The people are loving it. I'm like, what?
You got to do it for the fans.
Anybody noticing? Like, and so yeah, that was really cool. And, the cool part about that, which not a lot of people know, I've said it in interviews before, but so the video that came out, like the viral video, was actually just meant to be a thank you, I guess, to the video crew. Because most of those minor league crews are interns. And so they had all put this together. And so the cool thing for me now that it did go somewhat viral is, like, those guys and girls have that on their resume now. Like, if that's what you're trying to do, that's big.
Totally.
Like, that got national publicity. Like, it's pretty cool. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Having a thing, I mean, especially for the amount of competition those interns are going up against to get in, I'm sure with any team, having a thing that everyone's heard of right off the bat
helps.
Is a great thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As someone who once interned for a minor league baseball team, I can attest to the fact that they ask you to do some very strange things sometimes.
Who did you intern for?
I interned for the Trenton Thunder, the Yankees AA team.
Yeah.
And my jobs included everything from coffee, which is the usual, to helping to build a new fence in the outfield, which seems crazy, and then driving Ian Kennedy's pickup truck to Yankee Stadium.
Yeah,
He needed his car.
all right.
So were you building a fence or the fence in the outfield?
The fence.
Okay.
They needed more.
Yeah.
I don't think that's usually what is expected of interns.
Sure.
But
Did
there
they
was
have
a day
a
I showed
dog?
up there like,
Did they have a dog as the back?
Yes, they did.
Nice.
Yes, they did. Have you played there? I wouldn't think that would be in the same league you've been in.
I've only this is my first year not with the Cubs, so I've only played in Cubs systems, and I skipped actually a bunch of the places that we've played now. I haven't played. So I initially, like, when I signed, it was, it was Boise, Peoria, Daytona, Tennessee, Iowa. So Tennessee and Iowa obviously have stayed the same, but now now it's
Eugene is the first one,
Eugene.
right?
So the funny thing is, I used to always tell people, like, I skipped short season, never had to go to short season, and I didn't have to go to short season until 2016 when I got hurt and I had to rehab in short season, and it was so funny, man. Like, I'm this 28-year-old playing in short season. Like, what am I doing? And I didn't do good. I hit like 100. So, like, what are we doing?
Sure, but it's got to be.
But I'll tell you what. If you're gonna hit 100, here's how you do it. You go 2 for your first 2, and you don't get a hit the rest of the time, because the first game everybody's like, oh man, this dude knows what he's doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You make that first impression, and people are like, "Oh, clearly this is a true major leaguer here, hanging out with us for a little bit." And we heard we were talking to Rob Zastrisny, and he was saying that when the more established players will come down for like a rehab assignment, he was like, "You would not believe how much they don't give a shit." Typically, he was talking about like Josh Reddick just smoking cigs in between at bats. In the dugout.
It's interesting, like. I've heard all types of stuff, but like, I won't say the player, but I played against somebody in 2015 in AAA that was rehabbing from an injury, right? He was a position player, and he was a big name position player, but he was really struggling in the big leagues before he got hurt. And so I get on first base, and it's a first baseman. I'm talking to the guy, and he's like,
we're slowly getting the clues. Yeah.
I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to
get Yeah.
But I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, why aren't you like back in the big leagues? Like, what are you doing? And he was like, well, I'm almost healthy or whatever. But, he's like, was this supposed to be my last night? We'll see what happens. Well, apparently the next night he was on the lineup card in wherever they were playing. He was in the lineup card, but nobody told him and nobody booked him a flight, so he was still in AAA.
Oh, he was on the major league lineup card.
He was on the major league lineup card. Nobody told him. So he was scratched.
Well, the travel person for that team probably got a stern talking to.
That's tough.
Yeah. One of the interns is getting a promotion to a much better.
There you go. See?
Yeah, exactly. An opportunity arises.
Right.
But as you said, so you got called up the first time in 2017, right?
Yes.
So what is that like when you're all of a sudden coming on to a reigning World Series champion? Like how obviously you've played with a lot of these guys coming up, but how intimidating is that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like, thankfully I played with, like you said, I played with a lot of these guys. I was friends with a lot of those guys. So it was a little easier for me, except for, the only people that I hadn't played with were the other catchers. We had just traded for two catchers. And so
that makes sense.
There ended up being 5 catchers on the roster in September, and there were a lot of us there. And so not knowing them, I think, was tough. But no, it was, it's incredible, man. Like there's nothing like going to Wrigley Field. Like there's nothing like day games at Wrigley Field. I've always said that, and I'll always say that after playing there is like, I feel like a lot of teams, and this is probably just from like playing in the minor leagues coming up, but like a lot of teams, day games are fillers, like even I feel like a lot of major league games, day games are in the middle of the week when you're not expecting a big crowd, you're going to, that's a waste game.
Right. Not
Chicago. Like that's the coolest thing in the world to Chicago. And so that is such a cool atmosphere on a Tuesday to walk out in the middle of the day and it's packed, like it's incredible. It's a really, really cool. And to get to that, to be my first time in the big leagues, there's nothing like it.
And was your major league debut at Wrigley or was it in?
So debut was in Wrigley.
Okay.
I got called up in Pittsburgh, but I made my debut in Wrigley, and then my first start in Wrigley too.
Nice. That's
great. And now I was trying to remember because I have a memory of it. But your first hit like a kind of like a dribbler down the third baseline? Because if so, how much shit did you get for that?
Hey, so here's my favorite part about my first hit is that my first hit was hit so close to home plate that Statcast couldn't pick it up.
Literally off the radar.
So forever, I'm gonna tell my son that I smoked a ball, and it was just a guy misplayed it.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I remember like I was, obviously like I'm on second base, like I'm hoping, but I know for a fact I can't look. I'm like, I know it would be the worst thing ever. Like we're in a pennant race, like I can't be doing that. And like I look in the dugout and everybody's looking for me and they all started cheering. So that was
Oh, that's great. Also, I mean, what a perfect catcher move too, to not even go that far from home with your hits before you get to first.
I think I went a whole stint in the big leagues without like putting a hit into the outfield. So it's, it happens.
Yeah, I mean, they say small ball's dead, but I mean, that's how the Royals won, and you get you gotta have a thing. That's great.
That's funny.
Well, obviously, I mean, you mentioned day games, and I think you have an iconic moment in Cubs history. Like I don't know if you think of it that way, but like that is a moment, even though it's a regular season, that like if you show up at a Cubs convention 50 years from now, people will remember that moment. So like I really think that's true. To me, it's like one of the great regular season moments I've ever seen. When you're walking up to the plate, you have to know that you're down 4 runs. Be honest, is there any part of you that's thinking, man, wouldn't it be insane if I hit a grand slam right now?
Okay, so let me start with that's the jersey.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. It's excellent framing with the jersey in the background, the 53. And what else is in that jersey
the
case?
Lineup card.
Oh, beautiful.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so it was cool. It was weird. Like I remember I'm in the dugout and you would struggle if you think about it though, if you break it down, after that moment you kind of flipped a switch, and that was kind of the last time he was, because if you remember, he had been really wild in that game. He kind of settled down, and then from that point on, he really didn't. He flipped a switch. I don't know what he did, but he flipped a switch and he turned it on. But anyway, so all I remember is walking up to the plate, and then the next thing I remember is talking to Borzello about how we were going to get the next guys out. I have no memory of the swing, the pitch, the jogging around the bases, the high fives, nothing. I got nothing. No memory at all. All I remember is, hey, here's how we're going to get the next 3 hitters out. And I was like, all right, I don't know what happened, but it's cool.
Wow.
Oh man. And and also again, such a catcher thing that you're talking about, Yu Darvish turning the switch there on what I think Cubs fans think about as the Grand Slam, the Taylor Davis Grand Slam game. But Yeah, I mean, he had a very. There's very few pitchers who've ever had two very different two halves like that in a season. And I guess I did not realize that was around the time when
it had to be close. I
Yeah.
don't really remember, but it had to be right around then that if you pulled up the stats, I bet it would be close. I don't like I said, I think because I think I got sent down pretty quickly after that, and then I think
should have hit a 5-run homer. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Caratini caught him a couple times in a row, and then he after that it was over. He was incredible. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the moment was really cool. And I remember the next day going to the field and my jersey was in the front of the store by Wrigley. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's
Mom,
awesome.
I made it. That's so cool. So that was.
Now,
was
any of your family there for that series?
So my wife, this was my wife was still pregnant at the time. And she was
Oh
in
no, I think I've read this. I think
she was in the bathroom. And I said, so she told me, right? After she was so excited. And I go, Amber, how are you in the bath? There's one moment every hour and a half you can't go to the bathroom. I don't I'm not saying you're not pregnant. I'm not downplaying that. But my goodness, I needed one 30-second stint of you not going to the bathroom, because now our son can never be at one of my at-bats live. Poor kid.
That's right. She took your son away, and immediately magic happens.
No, honestly, she brought my son there. She hadn't been with me for a little bit, and so they had just gotten there, and it was they were my good luck charm. But,
that's great. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's even if it's not exactly how you would have thought you would have drawn it up originally, it must be also super cool for her to hear what I mean would have been an insane explosion of noise, and then to discover that it's you.
Right. It was. I bet you honestly, it was almost cooler, probably.
Yeah.
And it was. Yeah. She enjoyed the moment just as much as I did.
That's awesome.
And that wasn't a cheapie. That was one where it's I'm sure you watched the replay. That's gone off the bat for sure.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That was one of those that was just fun, couple good left turns and high five.
Yeah, a couple.
So now, in terms of that game and in general, catching Yu Darvish, how much of a challenge is that? And I mean, listen, I have to assume there are not guys with the arsenal of pitches that Yu Darvish has in AAA ordinarily. So what is that like?
Well, I will tell you this: the Cubs do have a guy who's got comparable stuff in Dylan Maples, the stuff that Maples
has. Oh my God, that slider! How do you catch
the whole thing, right? So the whole thing is really impressive. The whole but the whole thing, as you said, the complete package of Yu Darvish is he's got 18 pitches. He goes out there, and I remember reading after one of the starts. He didn't tell me this, and then after one of the starts, he had told the reporter he threw all 2-seamers that day. And I'm like, oh, that'd have been nice to know. I didn't know I was calling 2-seamers, 4-seamers. He was just throwing everything he wanted. But his stuff's so good that he can get away with it. And that's, it is impressive. He's an impressive human being, and he's got a really good idea of what he wants to do. I think that, what he was going through, he probably wasn't able to exactly put from his mind to what was happening, and I'm sure that was frustrating, but whatever missing link there was, as we talked about earlier, he figured something out.
Yeah, I mean, he struck out 150 and walked 2 the rest of the year, or something whatever it was. Just something truly insane,
like Greg Maddox numbers.
Yeah. Insane stuff. Yeah.
Although I have to say, as good of a pitcher as Yu Darvish is, he does not have a 0.00 ERA like Taylor Davis.
That's no big deal. I don't know.
No. That I'm assuming you didn't black out for. You must remember that.
No, that one I remember every bit of that one. Now I'll tell you why that one was really funny is because I had just gotten called up a couple days before, and the game before I got called up, I pitched in Iowa. Right?
Oh man, you're on short rest.
Listen to this. Hey, you want to talk about short rest? I came into the game. It was one of my good buddies pitching, and I came into the game with the bases loaded, first pitch homer, second pitch walk, second pitch ball,
sure,
third pitch homer, fourth pitch homer, fifth pitch homer, and then I got out. I threw 6 pitches, gave up 4 homers, and got out.
I kept the pitch count down.
So I always wanted to pitch every single time like it was position player. I'm like, please let me go. And so, but not at Wrigley when it's sold out. And like, what are we doing? No, it was really cool though. And I'll tell you the cool part was like as I'm coming off the field, like I did get a standing ovation, which was really cool. But like I couldn't really enjoy it because we were losing by 10. So it's a tough situation. But the fact that Schwarber was back there, I think made it cool, and that's probably who the standing O was for. But it was really, it seemed like it was for me, so I'm gonna take it.
Well, there's a play because I watched the highlights.
Yeah,
of it.
Marcus
First of all,
play. Don't worry about it. I know which one you're talking about. I tweeted
Well,
to him about it too.
Yeah, did he get back at you?
Yeah, he told me it doesn't compare.
I don't know.
Well, first of all, cat-like reflexes off the mound for sure. But there's a different play in that inning because you threw somebody out at home, which is great. But where there's like a dribbler, I don't know who hits it, and you and Schwarber kind of converge, and then I think he grabs it and throws it to Caratini, who's playing first. So there's just way too many catchers involved.
Catchers in it. Wilson's playing left.
Yeah, you rarely
it's
see
an all-catcher lineup.
Yeah, you don't see a scorecard with a 2-2-2 put out too often, but that's yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And you also threw a pitch that did not register because it was so slow.
I believe I threw one of the 10 slowest pitches of all time.
Wow, that's
and the only reason I believe that is because there's some like YouTube video or something on like Instagram going around that is like, hey, 10 slowest pitches of all time, and there's 10 from the last 20 years,
sure.
but I was one of them, so I'll take it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's making.
It seems like Statcast has a real issue with you.
Statcast loves me. Let's be honest. If Statcast didn't love me, it would have had better numbers or worse numbers, I guess.
What was the pitch arsenal you were taking to the mound that day? If it's not, maybe you said Yu Darvish has about 18 pitches. So what are you rocking?
Yeah, he's got 18. 14? I had slower, and slowest.
Okay, cool. So yeah, 1, 2, and 3 going down.
I wanted to see. There were no numbers. It was how slow can you throw it, and how slow can they hit it? Please.
That's good.
I remember the only advice actually from Chris Negron that I've ever gotten about pitching as a position player, which I believe in and I do it every time now, is to pitch inside. Because the only thing you don't want to happen is you get hurt. That's the worst thing in the situation for you and the team is for you to get hurt while you're pitching. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so if you throw it inside, at least they're not going to hit it back at you.
Yeah. That's
pull it. You know, you give up 10 homers in a row. Hey, I give up 4 homers in 5 pitches. No big deal.
Sure.
And I just don't want it coming back. They were moonshots too.
Yeah.
I guess you just have to hope. I mean, because do you happen to, this is some Cubs trivia. Do you happen to know who David Ross's first career home run was off of?
No.
Mark Grace.
What? Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Pitching in a blowout for the Diamondbacks. So it's like, it would kind of suck
in Arizona.
It was in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was when he was with Los Angeles, right?
Yes, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do know. I have seen that video. That's funny.
Yeah. Because it's not an ideal
I read, and
I'm
once again, I won't say this poor guy's name just because I feel bad. There was some another stat that went around the other day. It said one guy had made his major league debut, 0 for 3, strikeout, double play, triple play. That was the only time he was in the big leagues.
Oh my God, the out efficiency there is incalculable.
All right, here's mine. I actually have a similar story. We're playing a game in Colorado Springs.
Uh-huh.
This is AAA, and I ended the first 3 innings at the plate. I hit into a double play to end the first. I struck out to end the second, and I hit into a double play to end the third. Made 5 outs and 3 at bats. We were playing they were the Brewers at the time. Every single player on both teams, including both starting pitchers, had a hit except for me.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was tough. That was a tough day. 0 for 3 with 5 outs
in the first 3 innings. So that's
in the first 3 innings. I got
you're rocking 55.5% of the outs in the first 3 innings.
And you know what? And you know what the worst part about the whole thing is? Like, I'm sitting down in the dugout going, I'm 0 for 3, and it's only the third.
Yeah.
This is not good. This is not a good start to this day.
No. Well, everyone else is just having the time of their lives, really. If no one else is making it out all day, too. So
Absolutely.
It's tough to
it was payback, though, because we played a game earlier that year in Oklahoma City that the first game of the night, it was a doubleheader, went 19 innings.
Jesus.
And
Oof.
It was like a 5+ hour game. And the night before, I had asked my buddy to come to dinner with us. And he was like, no, man, I'm really tired. I'm like, man, I'm telling you, this restaurant's got some hits in it. Come on, let's just go have, whatever. I knew we were playing 2 games, right?
Yeah.
Well, he was like, no, I'm just going to bed. I'm like, bro, you're going to go for 10 tomorrow. Like, just come sit, right? So this first game goes 19 innings. He goes 0 for 10 in the first game.
Oh, my God.
And so the 7th at bat, he goes 0 for 7, right? 7th at bat, he comes in and he just kind of stares at me. 8th at bat, he like throws his helmet. He's losing his mind. 9th at bat, the entire team knows, the whole team. And so at the 10th at bat, everybody loses it. Right? He goes 0 for 10. He comes in, slams his helmet. Thank you. It's finally over. He actually walked his next at bat, so it's pretty cool.
Good. So
Still 0 for 10, though. Still 0 for 10, technically.
Still 0 for 10.
0 for 10 with the walk, but the on base is a little better than that, so that's nice. That's,
I think he ended up going like 1 for 11 or 1 for 12 on the day.
Oh my God, what a
that
day.
stinks, man. Like that probably hurts your month.
Oh, your numbers look much different after
12
night.
at bats. Yeah.
I was just gonna say one of my favorite oddities in the 2017 season, that crazy Game 5 in the NLDS against the Nationals, in that weird inning where all those runs score and Scherzer, you know what I'm talking about, like all that crazy stuff happened. Chris Bryant made 2 of the 3 outs in that inning, which is such a weird, it's just a bizarre thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the odds that you even get 2 at bats in an inning to make a couple outs? Most outs.
I'll be honest with you though, as you saw in my Colorado Springs game, it just seems that they seem to find you. Like I'm telling you, if you're having that kind of day, like it's the opportunity is going to be there. Will you strike?
Right.
Yeah.
And after the first 6 or 7, you're probably in your head a bit.
Yeah, it's happening again.
I mean, if you're 0 for 9, I'd imagine everyone on the team, whether you break the streak with the 10th out or you get the 10th out, it's cause for everyone else's celebration either way. Like, I feel like you gotta be marking out for that. Yeah.
So let's talk about let's just put it all on the forefront. Yeah. Okay. I had a span last year in Iowa where I went over a calendar month without a hit. That, my friends, is tough. That was like an 0 for 40 plus turned into like a 2 for 50. And I'll tell you the worst part about it was like the month before my son was born. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get a hit before my kid's born. How am I ever going to tell him this? Like ever. And so finally, like, it was kind of a joke. And I told my wife for like a week or so, well, it was getting really close. And my wife's like, hey babe, like, you're getting ready to come home. You might want to get a couple hits here. And I'm losing. Thankfully, literally the last game I think I was active for, I got 2 hits. And thankfully broke the streak. But I'll tell you that I think they were more excited for me than everybody was for my first hit. So
sure, no, I get it. Yeah, you're trying to bring some momentum into the house at an important time. I guess.
Right? Yeah, it's tough.
Oh,
it's tough.
Yeah.
I was curious, and we'll let you go here pretty shortly. But I know you've played some first and third for the Cubs. Mm-hmm. How comfortable do you feel playing somewhere not, catcher?
Really comfortable. I grew up an infielder, and then I didn't play infield in high school just because I caught all the time. But when I went to college, I would catch a game, play the infield. I would usually play third, and then I played quite a bit of third. Shoot, I did until last year. I had more starts at third base than I did in the big league at catching in the big leagues until last year. So I'm, it's. First, I really enjoy. I'm very comfortable at first. I've got a ton of innings over there. Third's fun to me because it is a challenge. I think it's the hardest position that I play. Mm-hmm. So for me, so that's why I like playing there. But I love catching. And catching's a thing that as I've gotten older, I love it more, and I kind of grow into it. It's been an experience.
Yeah. And it seemed from afar that the team valued bringing you up every year too, and it seems like they valued putting you with pitchers, like you said, when you was sort of struggling too. It seemed like you were a guy that they trusted, specifically working with pitchers too.
Absolutely. I mean, that's obviously my goal is to be able to. I've always tried to pride myself on being a good teammate and just trying to, do whatever I can to help. And for me, I found that the area that I can help the most is trying to find things with some of the pitchers or doing whatever I can to, that's kind of my philosophy is I don't care if I really help at all. If whatever we're doing works, let's just do it.
Right.
And then you take that and you run with it. But, it's fun when you get to work with it's fun when you get to work with guys, which, the Cubs have had some guys, obviously in the big leagues and even in AAA, they've had some guys with some stuff that we've gotten to do that with. We've gotten to play with Albert Owsley. We got to do a lot with him a couple years ago. Jinho Sang a few years ago, same thing. He's struggled since, but no, it's something that I take pride in for sure.
Do you have a pitcher, a particularly favorite pitcher or two to work with in the past? Was there anyone who was the most?
Man, are you trying to get me in trouble, man?
I'm not trying. Just someone. It could be for any reason. It doesn't have to be the best, but notable.
No.
Not really.
Oh man, here's a cool story. One of the coolest things. I had who? Okay, you guys are gonna have to help me here. I'm gonna forget the name. Sure. It was the Arrieta and Strop trade.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Scott Feldman.
Scott Feldman. So Scott Feldman, when he was with the Cubs, I don't know if it was my first year, second year, but he came down to throw like a minor league, like when they throw a backfield game in spring training.
Right.
And so I got to catch him. And so we're like going over everything. And he was kind of telling me like, hey, you can, you can call the game or whatever, but I'll also call it if you want, or I'll give you tips, blah, blah, blah. Well, by the second inning, he was calling every pitch and like, I wasn't doing anything, but it was really cool. And then after the inning, he would explain to me why he would do that, which for me as a young kid, that was really cool. And that was a cool way, whether he meant for it to be or not, it was a cool way for him to do it without seeming like a jerk, without seeming like he was trying to rub it in my face that he was calling every pitch.
Right.
It seemed like he was actually trying to help me. And so I got that. I've always thought that was a really cool moment for me. Like I said, that's another one of those things that I'm sure he probably has no idea about that, but it was cool for me.
Yeah. It's great to know something like that can make a difference like that too, and it stayed with you, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I guess last question. So I know you're with the Orioles now. How did you feel? Obviously it's an abbreviated spring break, but did you like your chances of breaking with the big league team?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I hope that would happen. I felt like I had started off to a decent spring training, but we'll see. It was cool. It was fun to be over there with a couple old Cubs and
Rob Z,
and a lot of the coaching staff and Hunter. We actually
Hyde, of course. Yeah.
Hunter Cervenka. We have Hyde, Tim Cousins, Jose Flores, the bullpen catcher Ben Carhart. So the cool story about Ben is that Ben and me went to rival high schools. We played on the same team since we were 12 years old, and we committed to the same junior college. We didn't go, but we committed to the same junior college. I went to a different one. And a year after I got drafted by the Cubs, he gets drafted by the Cubs. So we've played together literally almost our whole lives, right? Well, he ends up coaching for a couple years with the Cubs. This offseason gets a chance to be the major league bullpen catcher with the Orioles. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to sign with the Orioles. And so now I'm signed with them. And so we're literally just starting this path over, continuing this path. And
that's so cool.
Man.
It's been a really cool part of this journey.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. You're going to be hanging out like Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson and Bucket List 50 years from now doing doing weird things.
I believe that.
Absolutely. Life. Taylor, this was so awesome. Thanks so much for your time, man. We really appreciate it. And before we let you go, do you have anything that you want to plug or anything like that?
Yeah. So I do have a podcast called Framing the Conversation. I will warn you though, you have to love baseball to watch it, to listen to it. And I know this for sure because I told my parents I was on a podcast. So but I knew they wouldn't like it, so I didn't even tell them. My dad's a baseball rat, but he's much more old school. So he's just now kind of getting into knowing some of these numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to do was just start this podcast with these two guys from baseball Twitter, Jeremy Frank, who is MLB Random Stats, and Devan Fink. And so, and they're both college freshmen. And so, long story short, reached out, let's do it. And so all we do is we talk baseball and we just talk analytics. And my whole goal in this is I love that I guess I more or less understand why analytics are in the game. I embrace them because they're here. They're here to stay, regardless if you want them to or not. So I want to learn about them, and I enjoy learning about them. And so what I want is them to talk about the numbers, and me to be able to pitch in here or there, but then also try to explain to them from a player's standpoint why I do or don't like those numbers, or why they do or don't matter to me. And then they can tell me how I can change either my game or just in general, somebody can get better or worse through the numbers. So it's just a cool dialogue to me. But like, so I call my parents and they're like, that was really boring.
Parents do not leave an iTunes review. Everyone else can leave one, but but framing the conversation, you said.
Framing the conversation. Yeah.
Sweet.
That's great.
Well, thanks again, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Take care, Taylor.